Well, good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome in to the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Back with you folks as school goes back into session. Welcome back in, folks, to our women's basketball college scoreboard show here on Wnba U for Wednesday night, December the 16th. Of course, alongside the dynamic duo of LA correspondents, Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart, both up in Los Angeles, California. Cal McClure back with you folks down here in Studio 171 in San Diego. Ladies, good evening. How's it going?
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Cold, but ready to go.
Real quick, folks, we do hop on to the scoreboard tonight. Want to give a quick shout out to our another one of our co-hosts tonight, Eric Nemchuk, who is working on a pretty good exclusive story. You guys can check that out on today's fastbreak.com. Eric, by the way, is still off dealing with college finals, and Reagan Patrick is also off. Was in attendance tonight at Abby Wambach's final game with the U.S. women's national team down in New Orleans, Louisiana. We should have them back probably once the turn of the new year begins. But again, as a reminder, folks, we are off all next week due to the Christmas holiday. We'll be back with you folks on Thursday and Monday for our exclusive first two shows of WNBA one-on-one. With that, though, KT and Shorty, let's get into the top 25 scoreboard. A lot of great action. Obviously, starting off with the marquee event of the night, Stanford and Tennessee tonight from Maples Pavilion up there in Palo Alto, California. Number 15, Stanford over the Lady Vols, 69-55. Also across your top 25 scoreboard tonight, South Carolina pummels Hampton, 86-48. Texas goes tonight to 8-0 with a 92-62 victory over Casillas. Also in the top 25 scoreboard, Mississippi State. Number 9, Mississippi State, I should say, over Southern Miss, 78-65. And number 19, UCLA over UC Irvine, 83-48. Shorty, beginning quickly with the first game of the night, Tennessee Stanford. We talked about, again, a very big marquee matchup of two, as we said, two really well-known programs at the women's basketball level. Again, and tonight was just not Tennessee's night. And as we know, Shorty, Stanford is always tough to beat at Maples on their home floor. As tonight, Lily Thompson, 19-7-4 for the Cardinal. Bashara Graves, 10-5-3, leading scorer for Tennessee. Shorty, obviously seeing this game, you know, it's really been a struggle for the Lady Vols so far this season after a good start, then a couple of pretty big losses to top 25 teams across the board, from Texas beating them and a few other schools as well. Shorty, you know, I guess, you know, your overall thoughts about that game tonight, because obviously this has not been the same Lady Vols team that we've seen the past few seasons, and Holly Warlick's job may be in jeopardy right now with a lot of the fans really criticizing her style of coaching this season, and perhaps, you know, may not be the best time for Warlick at UT. Shorty, overall final thoughts, though, about tonight's game between the Cardinal and Lady Vols in your mind?
I mean, of course, skipping ahead near the end, they decided to make it competitive, but during the beginning of the game, it was just a mess. UT was just all over the place, discombobulated, and Stanford was pretty much running them out of Maples Pavilion. And then, you know, second half came, you know, they started to pick up things. Lily Thompson, throughout the whole entire game, as you just stated her stats, she was just on fire. Pretty much single-handedly dismantled the UT Lady Vols. But in the second half, Diamond DeShields, it was a surprising game coming from Diamond DeShields because, of course, we know that she can play to that caliber, but for this season, she hasn't really dominated the way she did tonight. You know, the last time she really had a game like that was when she, you know, was at UNC. So for her to finally come out in this game and take over, basically, her and Bashara Graves single-handedly tried to, you know, get them back, but it was just too much Stanford at the end, and that pretty much led to their demise, and Stanford took the victory.
Crystal, you know, you can contribute the loss. Again, I don't want to make excuses for teams, but again, perhaps that travel to the West Coast again, and especially college life, it can be very rough making those long-distance trips from where you play to a different part of the country. And of course, coming out west is never easy for teams. You know, it's never easy for teams going west or teams going east because of that time difference. But obviously, you know, you just saw Tennessee kind of be like, you know, just like the anecdote that I brought up about being a light switch. Very kind of like off in the first half, and then decided to pick it up towards the end. And between Graves and the Shields, there really has not been like a full game really played yet by Tennessee against a bigger and better team. Yeah, they probably had those in non-conference games early in the year, but again, not a real complete effort yet from the Lady Vols. And again, as Shorty said, Stanford blowing them out and running them out of Maples in the second half. Crystal, what are your thoughts about tonight's game? Because again, this could have gone either way, but Stanford, again, as you brought up last night, again, too powerful, too big, and too strong for the Lady Vols tonight up in Palo Alto. Your final thoughts on the game?
Well, first of all, it's even a surprise that Tennessee has 7 wins. It's going to keep that real. The way that they've been playing this year has not really been that good. Even though they're 7-3, their record implies that they're better than what they're playing. But if you were to see them on the court, you would be very disappointed. I kind of just figured Stanford was going to win because overall they're the better team, and they showed it here tonight. Yes, Stanford kind of started off slow, but it seems like they're slowly getting their rhythm back and slowly getting it together. And like Shorty said, Diamond DeShields, she's starting to come into her own and play well there. I think she had to adjust to the role and adjust to the system from UNC to Tennessee. But it seems as if right now she's finally starting to get into her groove, starting to finally become the player that we know she can be. And as far as Holly Warlick's job, I don't think she's on the hot seat yet, but I feel like if they keep playing the way that they are doing and they don't improve, then you probably will be seeing another coach in Tennessee soon.
Shorty, I was going to address that topic, before we moved on to other games, was, again, perhaps, Tanisha, in your mind, is Holly Warlick perhaps in a bit of trouble right now, considering that, it's been a very, very whirlwind up and down season so far through 10 games for Tennessee in your mind?
I'm not sure as to if she may be in the hot seat as far as the, UT college program organization, but from fans, oh yeah, not from fans, not only is she in the hot seat, she's pretty much fired, because I hear from UT fans every day on my timeline saying, she got to go. We got to get her out of here. She has all of these, potential stars on her team, and she doesn't know how to, make it all come together, and they're pretty much a mess right now. So I will state that, there have been injuries going on back and forth with the program, but just overall beyond that, she hasn't been delivering with the talent that they do have now. So yeah, as far as the fans go, they want her head.
Guys, I have family that live in Tennessee, and they've been ticket holders for the Lady Vols for a while, probably for the past 10, 15 years, I'd say, during Pat Summitt's time there before, of course, Holly came in, and kind of talking to them every now and then about the team. I've been thinking, though, that if Tennessee does not get past the Final Four again like they have been, where they've been stopped in their tracks the past couple seasons, Elite Eight or Final Four, that Holly Warlick is going to be gone. I think that's just, because you're held to a higher standard at UT in Knoxville, and obviously Pat lived up to it. I think, though, that if Tennessee does not get to the title game this year or even next season, that Holly Warlick is going to be looking for another job, because I think that with how the fans in Tennessee always come out and how the entire community in Knoxville, though, I mean, even Candace Parker said during her Q&A at the Orange Tip-Off Club before her jersey retirement last year, or a few years ago in January, she said that, whenever you go out to eat, people know your stats, or they know, too much information about your game. And that is kind of what it's going to end up being like, is if Tennessee, I believe if they do not get somewhere past what they've done, either Elite Eight or Final Four, they're not in the title game this year or even next season, there may be changes coming over there on Rocky Top sometime soon. Guys, across the rest of the top 25 scoreboard tonight, South Carolina pummeling Hampton 86-48. The Gamecocks now 10-0 on the season. Elena Coates 22-12-2 for her line tonight for the Gamecocks. KT to you on this one, obviously. Again, this is a team that is, clicking on all cylinders, and again, who I believe is probably going to be facing UConn again, and maybe another 1 versus 2 matchup for the tournament this year for the championship. But again, along with Don Sealy being the coach, though, obviously, Crystal, another non-conference game again, as we've seen, but again, another blowout by the Gamecocks. I guess, your long-term longevity thoughts about South Carolina as we get ready to kind of move into conference play in a couple of weeks. What do you think and why?
First things first, Dod Staley. I just had to do it. Um, um, you know what? I think they picked their play up a lot. During the first game against Ohio, they kind of looked a little bit shaky, but it's the first game of the season. People are nervous. You have first game jitters, but they really picked it up. And if they continue on the pace that they're going, they're going to be undefeated. And yes, we will see UConn versus South Carolina again. And because I'm such a Don Staley fan, South Carolina is going to win it this year. I don't care what anybody says. They're going for it. They're going to get it. And I'm going to be doing my happy dance when they play. And I'm going to be like, I told y'all. I told y'all. I'm calling it right now. But you will definitely see South Carolina versus UConn. And like I said, if South Carolina stays on the pace that they're going, they're going to be undefeated for a while.
Shorty, I think that if it was not for UConn being, such, a great program, of course, for the past, years and decades of women's basketball, of course, with Gino at the helm, I think that at least in this season, if UConn was to lose, I could very easily see the polls being South Carolina 1, UConn 2, if in fact the Huskies somehow, some way drop the game sometime during, the last half of non-conference, or even somehow losing in the AAC. But I believe though that that South Carolina, if it was not for UConn guys, South Carolina, damn well would be number one in everyone's poll if it was not for UConn being such a firepower or firehouse of a team. So obviously, Shorty, your thoughts about South Carolina and longevity going forward into conference play coming up very soon.
I mean, so far, they've been doing, one heck 10-0 undefeated, and I definitely agree with you that they have just arise from just like a team being in the mix to now one of the top powerhouses. Not only in their conference but the NCAAW in its entirety. So yes, I do agree. If UConn wasn't as dominant as they were, definitely SC would be tops.
Absolutely, and again, the final score for the South Carolina-Hampton game, again, Gamecocks 86, Hampton 48. Guys, across the rest of the top 25 scoreboard, one more game before we move on to some of the local games tonight across the college scoreboard. Shorty, Texas down 9-0. Number 5, Texas wins tonight by 30, 92-62. Imani Boet, 15, 10, and 2 for her in the game for the Longhorns tonight. And Shorty, Texas is going to, they're in a pretty decent and tough Big 12 conference for women's hoops. Of course, they've been the perennial powerhouse the past couple of years, and they've had a lot of great players come out of the Texas program. So, Shorty, what are your thoughts about Texas and longevity going forward towards Big 12 play coming up as well?
I definitely think they're going to keep rolling. Sadly, I haven't seen their schedules. So far, so I really don't know what's coming up next. But in conference play, I definitely see them continue to roll. Continue to keep things going, and they're definitely. They're one team. Not to just look at not only in conference but as a league as a whole. Two big surprising wins, or at least surprising wins for me. I did not see those two teams beating the supposed powerhouse teams that just played earlier in Tennessee and Stanford, but they took down both of those teams, and it's like, my goodness. Watch out for them because they're coming, and they're coming strong.
Crystal, we know that the selection committee will base their judgment on seeding for the tournament off of a lot of categories, of course, RPI, but also strength of schedule, but also key wins and losses. And obviously, Texas has really solidified their resume for the tournament with those wins over those marquee teams we talked about. So, Crystal, what does those wins, though, I guess, is that like an extra shot on the arm or boost of confidence for a team like Texas, of course, who's been ranked, but of course, that they can play with those bigger and better teams that are, sometimes ranked higher than they are in the top 25 polls in your mind going forward?
Well, first things first, I want to give credit to the coaching staff and especially Tina Thompson, because I feel like Tina Thompson is doing a very good job, especially with the post players. Texas, like you said, has always been ranked, but I feel like them having that leadership and Tina Thompson being there, you could tell they're really listening to her. You could tell that they're soaking in what she's saying. That's a legend. Why wouldn't you? Texas is doing well. Can they stay undefeated? Like Shorty said, I'm not sure who's coming up next. I think they will be undefeated. for a little bit. I don't think they can go undefeated for the whole season. But I definitely do think they'll be selected in the tournament. I don't see why they wouldn't. Like Shorty said, they have key wins already, and I know that's going to help them down the line. But you got to give credit to the staff and the players. They're really soaking in what everybody's saying.
All right, guys, it's time to get local now and talk some of the local conferences. Only one game tonight in the Mountain West Conference, which involved a Mountain West team. That was the UNM Lobos going to Minnesota and beating the Golden Gophers tonight, 72-53 in that contest up there in Minneapolis tonight. And across the rest of the Pac-12 scoreboard tonight, again, the same two games that we heard earlier. Again, Stanford over Tennessee, 69-55, and UCLA over UC Irvine from Pauley Pavilion earlier in the day, 83-48 for the Bruins over the Anteaters. No games tonight in the WAC this evening, which is a kind of a rarity for a Wednesday night, and also in the West Coast Conference as well. No games either for anyone in the West Coast Conference. And finally, for the rest of the Division I programs out in the Big West tonight, again, the only other game again was UCLA and UCI, which again UCLA won 83-48. Switching gears, guys, quickly over to the Division II ranks in the Pacific West Conference. Only one game tonight on the schedule. Hawaii Pacific defeats BYU Hawaii 57-42 earlier in the day over on the island. And in the California Collegiate Athletic Association, only one game as well tonight. Central Washington over Cal State LA 62-52 up there in Los Angeles, California. Games tomorrow in the Pac West go as follows. The Chaminade Silver Swords will host Southern Wilson from South Carolina at 9 a.m. Hawaiian time, 6 a.m. Pacific. Also tomorrow, Truman State at HPU. And also back on the mainland tomorrow, Dominican at Academy of Art and Fresno Pacific at Holy Names. Both those games at 5:30 in San Francisco and up in Oakland. Guys, there is one pretty big marquee game in the Pac West on Saturday involving the Peonu Sea Lions women's team against number 5 nationally ranked California Baptist. 5:30 tip-off up in Riverside. Crystal, I believe that you may know pretty well about California Baptist and their reputation as a very good women's basketball program. Of course, the Lancers got to the Final Four for the NCAA Division II ranks last season before they got knocked out in the Final Four last season. And also, guys, this is also a pretty significant rivalry game between the Sea Lions and Lancers. The second game will be played between these two schools in February down here at Golden Gym. So, Crystal, obviously, kind of think about this real quick. That here's Point Loma, a really small school, just getting again through 2 years in the Division II ranks of NCAA, playing the number 5th ranked team in the nation. Now, again, I will point out though, real quick, folks, that Point Loma beat both the number 1 ranked team in the University of Alaska Anchorage Seawolves on their home floor in the tournament last year, and also beat the number 2 ranked team in Cal Poly Pomona both last year and this year, earlier on in the season. So, Crystal, when a team plays another team that is nationally ranked like 5th in the rankings, can that sometimes scare a team that has really not been able, or that doesn't really play those kind of schools? And can that ranking kind of sometimes again scare away that other team in your mind, perhaps? I guess I would ask, where is your confidence level if you're a player playing against a bigger, better school like California Baptist in your mind?
Well, it kind of depends, because yes, it can both scare a team away, but at the same time, it can make people that much more motivated. Like if I was playing against a team, say for like a UConn, for example, if I was a small team and we were playing against a UConn, yeah, we know UConn's good, but you're gonna want to beat them. You want to be the first unranked team to beat this team and prove that we may be unranked, we may be a small team, but we can still get down with the best of them. And so it can go both ways. It can go, as a, yeah, I'm kind of nervous, but it can also go as a, okay, I'm excited, we can beat this team.
Shorty, there's been some history between the Lancers and Sea Lions on the both sides of the coin between men's and women's hoops. Of course, the men last year held their first ever nationally, or their first local television game ever in school history last year at Golden Gym when they played the Lancers on both Prime Ticket and Fox Sports San Diego and lost that game by 3 at the final buzzer. And then, of course, the women, have run into Cal Baptist both in the conference tournament and then, of course, in the Division II tournament up in Anchorage last season, where they played them 4 different times last season. And obviously, there's a lot of animosity and history between both the between both PLNU and Cal Baptist. But again, Shorty, can that national ranking, especially for a Division II program, kind of scare, intimidate the players on a team that again is still trying to adapt to the full-blown NCAA Division II, style of play, I guess, in your mind going forward? What do you think and why?
I mean, I definitely agree with what Crystal said. I mean, there's always going to be that nervousness and probably the little bit of doubt in the back of their minds, but overall, I think, they're going to want to rise up to the challenge and, want to take them on, full head of speed, so they can possibly have those rights to say, okay, we're that first team to possibly take them down. And, you never know how things are going to play out. Anything could go, the team that, the so-called bigger rival, might not bring their A game perhaps, and they could possibly catch them slipping. There's always that possibility of catching that, bigger ranked team slipping. So anything can happen, but overall, I think they'll definitely be ready for the challenge.
So again, folks, a pretty big Division II game again on the women's side. Again, Point Loma Nazarene University at California Baptist University on Saturday at 5 o'clock up in Riverside. Shorty and Crystal revisit the Sea Lions' last game. They played up at Concordia Irvine last week, and they defeated the Eagles pretty handily, 77-58. Four players for Point Loma in double figures, between Madison West at 22 points, Alex Brunk with 18, Sydney Tonak with 14, and homegrown player Amy Ogren with 11. And of course, there's a name again, Madison West, 22 points. Sea Lions shot the Lions out, by the way, folks, from beyond the arc. They shot 60% from beyond the arc in their last game. So, Shorty, obviously, it's a team living and dying by the three. But again, from what, again, as you guys, again, from the games that you probably have sat in on my broadcast and on off-air hangouts, but again, seeing, again, that four players again lead the way, again, once more, again, Shorty, you see, I mean, obviously, excuse me, it can kind of be a little bit devious by seeing the same players always leading the pack, but obviously, Shorty, this is a team that I've said on many broadcasts, basically lives and dies by the three. There's been games where they've made, 8 to 10. There's been one game when they've made only 2. And Shorty, again, you hear that they make, that they finish at 59.1%, actually. That's almost 60% from beyond the arc as a team. What does that kind of say, though, about three-point shooting, at the Division II level, I guess, or at least with Point Loma in your case? Because, again, that's a rarity, 60% almost from beyond the arc. That's pretty incredible.
I mean, it just means that they have pretty good shooters, so the team is, versatile. And, you need that. You need that within every roster. You just don't want to be a team only focused on the paint or focus on mid-range jumpers. You have to have those long bombs to spread the defense and keep them honest. So that's definitely a great attribute for that team to have. Long-range three-point bomb shooting to, either keep them in games or, put them over the top against their opponents.
Crystal, again, because this offense that Point Loma runs is just so fun to watch, because I tell this a lot of people on the broadcast. It reminds me a lot, with Bill Westfall, of course, being the brother of longtime Suns coach and player Paul Westfall. It reminds me vaguely a lot of the D'Antoni-led Suns with Steve Nash at 7 seconds or less, or even now like the Golden State Warriors, how they just can kick the ball out to an open shooter and they can bury the three. But again, Crystal, 59.1% as a team beyond the arc in their last win over Concordia Irvine. Crystal, I mean, obviously, I've not seen a team shoot the lights out like that in quite some time in any game I've broadcasted or watched lately. So what does that attribute, as Shorty said, kind of say about a team that can, other than, post plays inside and jumpers inside the arc, but again, making those threes rain from beyond the arc in, and again, and like I said, but again, Crystal, 59.1% as a team from beyond the arc in their last victory. What do you think and why?
Well, you know what it is. Schools like that, D2s and NAIAs and stuff like that, a lot of them are undersized anyway, so a lot of them, I think, look for shooters more than they look for post play. And in this case, I think Concordia, since it is, I believe, an NAIA D2 school, they pretty much followed suit like all the other NAIAs. They went for shooters, and they found some really great shooters. They got like baby Chrissy Tollivers on their team or something, because That's really impressive. They, 59.1%. I mean, I don't think there's a pro team that shoots that high from the three, male or female. So that's actually, that's really, I'm actually pretty impressed by that. I didn't know that. I have to watch that now. That's actually kind of cool. I'm kind of shocked. I have no words for that. 59.1. That's really impressive. I'm kind of shocked about that. If anybody's listening in WNBA land, you need to go look at Concordia because they got some shooters. Because I'm kind of shocked at that one.
Yeah, so again, folks, Point Loma Sea Lions shooting 59.1% from beyond the arc in their last victory over Concordia Irvine up in Irvine last week. And again, they'll play their final game before the winter break on Saturday up at longtime rival California Baptist at 5 o'clock. Catch the game on cbulancers.com. And guys, I kind of wanted to kind of address this as well. And again, I don't want to make this a whole P on you discussion here. But guys, as you guys know, again, with Point Loma moving over to the Pacific West Conference this past year, that now sadly is leaving one of the longtime great NAIA and also NCAA Division II conferences. The Golden State Athletic Conference, folks, the GSAC conference is losing members. They are now down to 9 schools right now. And also, guys, I've heard rumors and talk of another school leaving for the Pac West Conference in Biola University. So obviously, Shorty, this is probably a problem, though, for the NAIA, at least, that they're using or losing a lot of the schools that they've had for a long time. Because basically, Shorty, if you look at the entire Pac West Conference, all of it was basically the GSAC for the longest time from the 80s and the 90s and so on and so forth. I mean, where they've lost, pretty much every school but, they've lost, let's see here, 1, 2, 3. I mean, they've lost 6 different schools in the past within the past 3 to 5 years. I mean, before they lost Cal Lutheran in 1989, then of course recently they lost Cal Baptist in 2011. Then they lost Azusa Pacific, Fresno Pacific, and Point Loma Nazarene all in 2012. Then of course this past year they lost Concordia. So Shorty, in your mind though, do you perhaps think that maybe the GSAC conference is probably going to end up just completely, probably shutting down all the way? And then you'll probably see schools going to a different Division II conference, perhaps, because right now only 9 schools are in that conference, and again, one more on the verge of leaving in 2017. So obviously, Shorty, your thoughts about probably the future of the GSAC conference for its long-term future. What do you think, perhaps? Because again, a lot of schools have left, and some are still on the move. What do you think, and why?
Yeah, for the GSAC conference, from what I'm hearing, it's not looking good at all, basically. And I do think that that conference may be evaporated, a couple of years on down the line, because usually when, teams get to move in out of a conference and things like that, it's always a money issue. So for, teams to pretty much dissipate from that conference, yeah, we see things breaking down, and yeah, it may not be around for long.
Crystal, I think that you and I, or probably you, have some experience with the GSAC, at least with probably some schools between either the Masters or maybe even Vanguard University, who's still in the GSAC right now, and of course Grand Canyon, who was in the Pac West, moved to the GSAC. Will be playing SDSU men's hoops, and of course, Crystal, one of my favorite players, Thunder Dan Marley, is the head coach of the men's team at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix. But again, Crystal, I mean, between you being recruited by Vanguard, and all this and everything else included, and seeing this conference again kind of dwindling down, 9 schools only in this conference. Again, they are NAIA D1 right now. But Crystal, again, seeing the turnover of the teams and schools leaving, what are your thoughts about, again, the future of the Golden State Athletic Conference perhaps going forward? Because, again, 9 schools are only left in this conference, and, again, one more probably leaving in 2017. What are your thoughts and why?
It has me thinking that there might be some kind of financial issue going on with that conference. And I think what they're trying to do is, instead of just, getting rid of the whole conference as a whole, they're probably trying to keep the conference any way they can. And, some teams, as we all know, that's how they get money from the conferences, whether they play, big schools or little schools. And if the conference has no money for them, I mean, of course they're going to go to a conference where not only do they have better competition, but where they are able to get money for their school. And it would be sucked to see the GSAC go. Like you said, there's only 9 teams, and Vanguard has been on top of the GSAC for some years now. I hope the situation gets resolved, but I wouldn't be surprised if that conference just ended up totally just not being there anymore.
Yeah, Crystal, many battles between Point Loma and, of course, between all the other schools like Azusa and Fresno and, of course, Cal Baptist as well, and all the other schools that they did play in the GSAC when they were NAIA, then NCCAA. And now, of course, there is now NCAA Division II. But, again, folks, perhaps the demise of the GSAC, the Golden State Athletic Conference, perhaps on the NAIA level, perhaps with the conference dwindling down to 9 teams. For the athletic year, perhaps we'll be down to 8 by the end of 2017. With that, folks, school is officially dismissed. We'll be back with you folks tomorrow night to wrap up our coverage for the rest of the year. And again, we'll also be back with you folks again on Monday as well to kick off our new show of Wnba One-on-One. With that, though, folks, till tomorrow night, have a safe night. Drive home safely. Thanks for stopping by and joining us. And good night. This has been the Wnba 365 North. We're up at WNBA and covering the rest of the WNBA and women's basketball universe. For KT and Shorty up in LA, Cal McClurkin signing off. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.